Today marks exactly 3 months since I uploaded my first ever challenge video here on YouTube, and to celebrate this occasion we're going to be running the Johto starters, starting with Meganium. Out of the 3 Johto starters, Meganium is generally considered to be the worst. A lot of that is due to its pure grass typing, which it keeps throughout the entire evolutionary line. That means it has a whopping 5 weaknesses to flying, poison, bug, fire and ice. It does however have 4 resistances to ground, water, electric and grass. So Meganium will fare incredibly well against some Pokemon, but horrendously badly against a lot of other Pokemon, especially in the early game. And just before we get into the challenge, if you do find you're enjoying this run, please do leave it a like, and if you want to see more content from me, please do click the subscribe button. But with all that out of the way, let's now take a little look at our Chikorita's stats. As always, we'll be starting at level 5, and this time we have 19 HP. Chikorita's starting moves are Tackle and Growl, and as always we're holding a berry. Our attack is 9, our defense is 12, our special attack is 11, our special defense is 12, and our speed is 9. And our hidden power type is Ice. And with all that out of the way, let's now get the challenge underway. As is tradition, we will take a look at the very first encounter we have, and it was the first patch of grass this time. It's a level 2 Hoot Hoot, and being a physical attacker at the moment, this is incredibly frustrating. Because Hoot Hoot has a 50% chance of using Growl every turn, and that really does slow us down. And just before we enter Mr. Pokemon's house, we're going to do a little bit of grinding and get all the way up to level 8. At level 8 we will learn Razor Leaf, and that move will stick with us through most of the game because it's one of very few grass type moves we learn by level up. And just before we take on the rival, I've got a question for you. How well or badly do you think Meganium will do? We do have a couple of other grass type Pokemon on the leaderboard at the moment. Sitting in 23rd place is Exeggutor, and all the way down in 26th place is Sunflora. So do you think Meganium will beat one, both, or neither of them? Let me know in the comments below. But now we're against the rival Cyndaquil, we get a lucky critical hit, and it's just a 3-shot to knock it out. That could have gone an awful lot worse. So now we'll re-enter Professor Elm's laboratory, we'll call the rival triple question mark as we always do, and we can make our way towards Violet City. And just before we enter the city itself, we're going to get another level. We want to get up to level 12 because we will learn Reflect at level 12. And unfortunately for us, I did get trapped by this Ghastly, which was incredibly frustrating, but it was just a 2-shot. We learn Reflect, and that will allow us to take on the gym. We had no issues with either of the gym trainers, would you believe? So we can go straight on to Falconer. Falconer is a flying type specialist, which is terrible for us, and he leads with Pidgey. We set up a Reflect straight away, and then we get to tackling, and a few tackles later the Pidgey is down, and out comes the Pidgeotto. I growl against it until my Reflect fades, and then I set up another Reflect, and then it's just on to tackling. And the combination of both Growl and Reflect means Pidgeotto isn't actually dealing that much damage, and it's just enough for us to scrape by without any resets, surviving on 2 HP. So we have our first badge in a time of 8 minutes and 42 seconds. And now we can start moving south on to Route 32 on our way to Azalea Town. We'll pick up the Miracle Seed from the man just outside of Violet City, and then we're going to take on these Fishermen. Fishermen are really great to take on when you have a grass-type Pokemon because it's generally just a 1-shot like that. And against Fisherman Ralph we get our first evolution. Our Chikorita has now evolved into Bayleaf, and of course evolving means we have much better stats all around. But now it's time to go into the Ilex Forest and catch our HM friends. The first HM friend to say hello to us this time is Paris. Paris is going to be helping out with Cut, Dig, Sweet Scent and Flash. And the second HM friend we will encounter is Psyduck. Psyduck is an incredibly handy Pokemon to have on your team in Generation 2, because Psyduck learns a grand total of 8 field moves. However, our Psyduck is going to be helping out with Surf, Strength, Waterfall and Whirlpool. And after being caught in a Great Ball, we can move on towards Kurt's house. Nothing of any great significance happened in the Rocket segment, so we'll move on towards the gym, and this one is going to be a toughie. Bugsy is a Bug-type leader who will lead with Metapod. Metapod is the easiest of his 3 Pokemon because it only resists Grass-type moves by 2 times, his other 2 Pokemon resist by 4 times. We aren't doing much damage at all against the Kakuna and we get poisoned, so I try again, this time holding the Poison Cure Berry. It's a 3-shot on the Metapod with Tackle, it was a 2-shot with Razor Leaf before, and we miss our first tackle against the Kakuna. We get poisoned on our first turn yet again, but we do manage to get a critical hit to at least get onto the Scyther, I set up a reflect as he starts to Fury Cutter. I growl at him a couple of times, but it is really no use. Even with 2 growls, Fury Cutter knocks us out, so let's try the rival instead. We have a choice at this point in the game. We can either do gym number 2 or we can do rival number 2. And I really do think we have a better chance of success against rival number 2. Not a great chance of success, but a better chance nonetheless. So we get through the Zubat and we're confused and we start tackling the Quilava. Unfortunately it hits us twice with Smokescreen, and that means we are not really able to hit at all. And we do get knocked out by Ember. A few resets later, but only 3 minutes later because we kept getting paralysed by the Ghastly, we're on to attempt number 16, and we do make a lot more progress. We managed to get rid of the Ghastly and the Zubats without taking much damage at all, which leaves us on 57 HP for the Quilava. Razorleaf gets a very lucky critical hit, taking Quilava into 4-shot range, but we do get burnt. However, we're holding a berry, and that means we survive on 1 HP and get through rival number 2 without much pain at all, really. So we can now move on and do a little bit of grinding before taking on Bugsy again, because we stand no chance at our current level. I think we're going to need just 1 more level to give us that bit of a safety net. And the Geodude very kindly offers to give us the experience we need to grow to level 23, and we will learn Synthesis. Growl didn't really help out in the battle last time, so we're going to try with Synthesis instead, just in case we need to regain some HP. So we're against Bugsy again. He leads with Metapod, and it's still going to be a 3 shots with Tackle. However, with Tackle and Razorleaf it is just a 2 shot. We are on to Kakuna. Kakuna doesn't hit us very hard at all, only taking 5 HP of damage as the Scyther comes out. Scyther starts to Fury Cutter as we set up a Reflect. Fury Cutter is doing a little bit less damage than it was before. We get a very lucky critical hit, but Fury Cutter knocks us out. I think our 2 options are either to try and brute force the luck or grind, and in this instance I chose luck because grinding is incredibly slow at this point in the game. So we get lucky critical hits against the Metapod and the Kakuna, and we're onto the Scyther with full health. We set up Reflect and Fury Cutter misses. That means we are able to tackle down the Scyther. We are in the yellow HP as it gets knocked out, and we have defeated Bugsy in a time of 31 minutes and 43 seconds. Overall, for a Grass-type Pokemon, especially seeing as we did Rival 2, that is very, very good. But we can now move on into the Ilex Forest and pick up HMO1. That is Cut, and Paris is going to be helping us out with Cut. We are going to get a better normal-type move in Headbutt, which we'll teach straight away. We'll then grab the bike from the bike shop hidden away in the corner of Goldenrod City. We'll go into the underground and pick up the coin case so that we can purchase Abra, and we'll also get a haircut. He did offer to use hedge clippers at first, but I said no, just the scissors are fine, and Bayleaf seemed happy enough with that. We'll buy the coins for the Abra and then buy the Abra in the game corner. And now it's time to say hello to our next HM friend. This is Kenya, who did his run last video and did very, very well for himself. So this run he can just rest in his Pokeball. We'll pick up Dig, and then we'll also have a little chat with Floria. And we can now take on Whitney, the normal-type specialist. She leads with Clefairy, who uses Razorleaf against us, which was incredibly weird, and we are on to the Miltank. The Miltank starts to roll, but it's just 3 Razorleafs to knock it out, and that was a very, very easy Whitney battle. Time of 37 minutes and 30 seconds with a very good Whitney split there. We can now move on towards the Lake of Rage. At the Lake of Rage we're going to pick up the Rare Candy, and we're also going to pick up Hidden Power. Hidden Power is an Ice-type move for us this time with base power of 70, but we're not going to learn it for a little while yet. Instead we're going to head back towards Ecruteak City and pick up the Minceberry from the Moo Moo farm. And with all our bits and pieces picked up, it's time for Rival number 3. Rival 3 leads with a Haunter, and Haunter can be quite scary because it knows Curse. However, in this instance, he doesn't use it at all, using a combination of Lick and Mean Look, and that means we're not on a clock for the rest of the battle. We Oko the Zubats with Headbutt, we Headbutt the Quilava a couple of times to get rid of it, and the final Pokemon is Magnemite. We Headbutt the Magnemite and don't do much damage, but it's more than enough to knock it out in 3 shots, and we've defeated Rival number 3 on our very first try. And now we can move on into Ecruteak City's gym. This gym is a dual Ghost and Poison type gym because every single trainer uses the Ghastly line. The first trainer we come up against is Sage Ping, and we're going to be using Razorleaf against all of the Pokemon in this gym because that is the only move we have at the moment that can hit Ghost-type Pokemon. And against Sage Ping we grow to level 31 and learn our next move. We learn Body Slam, which is a lovely 85 base power normal type move with the chance to paralyze. So unfortunately for us it's not going to be useful in this gym, however it will be useful a little bit later on. And before taking on Morty, we'll also take on Sage Jeffrey. He's got a single Haunter and it's a 3-shot against the Haunter. We knock it out and grow to level 32. And at level 32, Bayleaf evolves into Meganium. So we get a very, very early final stage evolution here, and that is enough for us to now take on Morty. Morty is our 4th gym leader. He is a ghost type specialist and he leads with Ghastly. As we did with the trainers in the gym, we are going to have to rely on Razorleaf. I want to avoid using Hidden Power as much as possible in these runs, but Razorleaf does have an increased critical hit chance, so I think if we can just critical hit that first Ghastly, we will be in very good stead to get through the rest of the battle. Unfortunately, we didn't do it on our first attempt, so we'll try again, and a few attempts later we critical hit the first Ghastly, and out comes Haunter. We get a critical hit against the Haunter and it doesn't use Curse, that means we're not on a clock for the rest of the battle. Razorleaf doesn't do too much against the Gengar, however Gengar uses Mean Look on its second turn, which means it doesn't damage us at all. We get a critical hit on the third Haunter, we knock it out, and we are now through Morty's gym in a time of 48 minutes and 13 seconds. That was the final really tricky gym we'll be coming up against, and we can now move on into Olivine City. We'll pick up Strength from the man in the cafe, and then very quickly backtrack to pick up Surf. I completely forgot to do it in my first sweep of Ecruteak City, however it only lost about 20 seconds worth of cycling. We'll have a little chat with Jasmine, we'll pick up the rare candy, and we'll pick up the secret potion from the man in the dodgy shop on Cianwood City. And while we're in Cianwood City, we might as well take on Chuck. Chuck is a fighting type specialist who will lead with a Primeape. Now Primeape is not much of a roadblock at all because he completely misses his Fury swipes, and we are on to Poliwrath. Our Razorleaf misses, but fortunately his Dynamic Punch misses as well. We hit with another Razorleaf, so it was a simple 2-shot to take care of the Poliwrath. Storm Badge in hand in a time of 54 minutes and 33 seconds, and now let's move back to the Lake of Rage where the Red Gyarados is waiting for us. The Red Gyarados will unlock Lance the Liar with the Flyers, and we take it down in just 3 shots with a combination of Body Slam and Razorleaf. We'll pick up the Red Scale and then we'll have a chat with the Liar himself. He tells us all about the shenanigans going on in the underground of the Mahogany shop. We take care of it, we get HMO6 from him, and we can now move on to Price. On paper, Price's gym should be very difficult for us because we're at a type disadvantage. However, every single one of his Pokemon is weak to Grass-type moves, so we'll Razorleaf away the seal and out comes Dugong. A couple of Razorleafs later and Dugong is gone forever, and the final Pokemon is Piloswine. We one-shot it with a critical hit Razorleaf to get the Glacier Badge in a time of 1 hour and 10 seconds. Let's now move on to our 7th gym leader. It's Jasmine, and she is a Steel-type specialist. She leads with Magnemite, who opts to use Supersonic instead of Thunder Wave, and that means we're not paralysed as the Steelix comes out. We aren't confused either and deal a lot of damage with a critical hit Razorleaf because Steelix is part ground type, and just 3 Razorleafs later we have knocked it out. We learn Light Screen in place of Synthesis because I think it's good to have both the special and physical defense buffs, and then we Razorleaf away the final Magnemite. Overall, that was a very, very easy Jasmine fight, all things considered. We get the Mineral Badge in a time of 1 hour, 1 minute and 45 seconds, and now we've got a little bit of housekeeping to do. We'll pick up the Rare Candy from Violet City, and we'll also pick up the Flash HM. We'll grab the Rare Candy south of Goldenrod City. We'll have a little poke into the Slowpoke well where we'll pick up the King's Rock, and finally we'll pick up the Return TM from the Goldenrod department store. And after all that, it's a trip to the very top of the radio tower where the fake director is waiting for us. And this battle is a real issue for Grass-type Pokemon, because it is 6 Poison-type Pokemon back to back, 5 coughing and a wheezing to top it off, and this battle really does slow us down. We made an awful lot of forwards progress in between Whitney's gym and Jasmine's gym, but these Poison-type Pokemon are very much a roadblock, so we're going to learn Return instead of Body Slam. A Return does slightly more damage, however it's still not enough to one-shot, so we're just going to have to hope that we don't get poisoned early. We managed to take care of the first 2 coughing without getting poisoned, and out comes the 3rd coughing. I really wish there was more strategy to this battle than just spamming Return and hoping for the best, but there really isn't much more we could do. We could have set up a Reflect, but that would have just given the coughing another chance to poison us, so we are just going to have to keep returning, and eventually we brute force our way through all 6 Pokemon, and we defeat the fake director. With the basement key in hand, we can go down into the underground and we can take on the 4th rival battle. This time he leads with Golbat. We're going to use Return against the Golbat, but we don't quite knock it out and we get confused in the process. We do finish it off in our 2nd turn, and out comes Quilava. Return does a lot of damage against Quilava, as Flame Wheel did barely anything at all. That means we're onto the Magnemite, and it's a 2-shot on the Magnemite, but we do get paralysed. He starts Sonic Booming us away, but we still have 79 HP as the Haunter comes out. Our only option against the Haunter is Razor Leaf at this point, and we do keep getting paralysed, so it takes a few shots to get rid of it, but we do eventually win the War of Attrition with 32 HP remaining, and his final Pokemon is Sneasel. We use Return against the Sneasel to knock it out in 2 shots, surviving with 16 HP, and we've defeated Rival 4. I appreciate that battle would have been an awful lot easier with Hidden Power Ice, however we did use Hidden Power Ice with the Sunflora run, and I try to avoid having 2 very similar runs on the channel, so we'll pick up the Pink Bow, we'll pick up the Never Melt Ice, and we'll pick up the Radio Card on our way towards Blackthorn Gym, and now it is time for Claire. Claire is the actual Dragon-type specialist of Pokémon Crystal, and she leads with Dragonair. Unfortunately for us, we don't OHKO the Dragonair, which means we are at high risk of being paralysed. We're holding the paralysed Cure Berry though, and that gets us out of a pickle against the second Dragonair. The third Dragonair does paralyse us however, but we are still on 152 HP as the Kingdra comes out. Razor Leaf is neutral against the Kingdra because of its parts water typing, so it's just 2 Razor Leafs to knock it out, and we've defeated Claire with very little pain at all. Time of 1 hour 22 minutes and 5 seconds for Claire. Let's now move on towards the Pokemon League. We'll pick up the rare candy just east of New Bark Town. We will then pick up TM26, which contains Earthquake, and we will teach it straight away in place of Reflect. I chose to keep Light Screen instead of Reflect, because Red is primarily a special attacker, and that is the battle where we could have an awful lot of difficulty. But for now we're taking on Rival 5, and he leads with Sneasel. Sneasel goes down to a single return, and out comes the Golbat. We use Return against the Golbat to take it deep into the red, and just like last time he confuses us, we grow to level 53 as Typhlosion comes out. We've got Earthquake to take care of Typhlosion in 1 shot this time though, and we're on to Magneton. We're confused no more, and Magneton is 4 times weak to ground, so Earthquake takes care of it, as it does with the Haunter as well. The final Pokemon is Kadabra. We use Razor Leaf against the Kadabra, knock it out in 1 shot, and Rival 5 was done without any damage at all. So that means we can now move on into the Pokemon League itself, and as always, the first thing we're going to do is take a heal whether we need it or not. And now it's time to say thank you to our HM friends. We say thank you to Kenya, to Abra, to Psyduck, and to Paris. You've all been a great help in the Johto region get some well-deserved rest, as Meganium has its chance to shine. We'll pick up our 4 full restores from the Pokemon. And now let's take a little look at our stats going into the league. We are level 53 with 180 HP. Our held item is the Pink Bow, and our moves are Razor Leaf, Earthquake, Light Screen, and Return. We have 127 in attack, 143 in defense, 126 in special attack, 144 in special defense, and 124 in speed. Our first league member is Will, and he is a Psychic type trainer. And Will lead with a Xatu. We're going to use Return against the Xatu to take it deep into the red, but we don't quite knock it out and we get confused. This is just like the start of the rival battle, however we snap out of confusion very quickly. We take care of the Jinx in 1 shot and we are on to the Executor. Return takes care of the Executor in 2 shots, and that brings us on to the second Xatu. We use Return against it, and just like the first Xatu, we don't quite one-shot it. However, he uses Psychic instead of Confuse Ray, and we knock it out in 2 further shots. The final Pokemon is Slowbro, which is weak to our Grass-type move, so we knock it out in 1 shot, and we can move on to Koga. Koga is a Poison-type specialist, which is bad for Meganium, and he leads with Ariados. Return doesn't quite one-shot the Ariados, however, and he uses a double team to increase his evasion. He uses Spiderweb though, which is great for us because we are running a single Pokemon, and out comes Venomoth. Venomoth yet again is close to a one-shot, but not quite, and we are on to Muck. Fortunately for us, Muck is weak to ground-type moves, so we knock it out with a single Earthquake, and the next Pokemon is Crobat. We use Return against Crobat to take it down into half health, another Return hits as he uses Double Team, and a third Return later to knock it out entirely. The final Pokemon is Fortress. The only move we've got really suitable against the Fortress is Earthquake. It takes 3 shots, but we knock it out, and we defeat Koga on our first try. Up next is Bruno, the Fighting type specialist. He leads with Hitmontop, who uses Quick Attack against us for a little bit of damage as we start returning against him. 2 returns later, and we've knocked it out, and we're on to Hitmonchan. We start using Razor Leaf against it, but we miss twice in a row, and that means we take an awful lot of damage from Fire Punch. We do eventually knock it out, and we're onto the Hitmonlee. We miss yet another Razor Leaf as he starts to double kick. That means we are not in a good way as the Machamp comes out. Our Razorleaf actually hits with a critical hit, but he gets a critical hit cross-chop back and knocks us out. That was some really awful accuracy luck on the first battle, so we're going to swap to Earthquake for this battle instead, and this way we knock out the Hitmontop in 2 shots, we do the same against the Hitmonchan, and we are on to the Hitmonlee. We are in a much better position this time as we one-shot the Hitmonlee and out comes Machamp. Earthquake does just shy of half damage as he gets yet another critical hit cross-chop. We're out of Earthquake PP, so a couple of returns later and we've knocked it out, and that brings us to Onix. Onix is 4 times weak to grass, so we use Razor Leaf against it, we knock it out, and we can finally move on to Karen. Karen is a Dark-type specialist who leads with that pesky Umbreon. As we all know, Umbreon loves to use Sand Attack on the first turn, and like Knight's turns today, our accuracy is lowered once again for the Karen battle. We miss an Earthquake and that gets us paralysed. Vileplume then uses Moonlight, so I think enough of that, thank you very much, it's time for Hidden Power. Between now and defeating Erica, we don't have many Pokemon at all that are weak to grass, so we're going to replace Razor Leaf and try again. Sand Attack misses this time from Umbreon and he uses Feint Attack on the second turn. That means we are full accuracy for the rest of the battle. Hidden Power Ice makes light work of the Vileplume and we knock it out in 1 shot, and we're on to the Houndoom. We outspeed the Houndoom and use Earthquake to knock it out in 1 shot as well. Gengar comes out and once again Earthquake is super effective, so it's a 1 shot, and we are on to Murkrow. Murkrow is weak to our Hidden Power Ice, so we knock it out in 1 shot, and we have defeated Karen in a time of 1 hour 33 minutes and 2 seconds. The final trainer of the Elite Four is the Liar with the Flyers, it's Lance time. We're going to start by using a Light Screen because Dragon is a special type move, and then we will use Return against the Gyarados to knock it out in 2 shots. Out comes Dragonite's number 1 and Hidden Power gets the job done in a single shot, so he brings out his Aerodactyl. Aerodactyl is also weak to Ice type moves, so it's a simple 1 shot, and we're on to the Charizard. We use Return against the Charizard as Flamethrower hits for a lot of damage and burns us, so we finish it off with Hidden Power. His final 2 Pokemon are both Dragonite, so we don't have to worry about the burn at all. We knock them both out with a single Hidden Power each, and with that we are the champions of the Johto region. Time of 1 hour 35 minutes and 55 seconds for Lance, and we enter the Hall of Fame in a time of 1 hour 34 minutes and 13 seconds. But don't go away because Kanto is next. And we rejoin where it all began outside our house in Newbark Town. Professor Elm gives us a call because he's got some stuff for us. The first thing he gives us is the SS tickets, that will allow us to get to the proper part of Kanto, and he also gives us the Master Ball. And it's now time to say welcome back to Kenya, to Abra, to Psyduck and to Paris. They had a lovely little rest during the league. And now the final thing to do in Johto is pick up our last 2 rare candies, one in Mount Mortar, one in the Whirl Islands, and now we can move on into Vermilion City. And of course, the first thing we do in Kanto is the last thing we do in Johto. We're going to pick up yet another rare candy, this time from the chairman of the Pokemon fan club, and with that we can move on into Celadon City. Our only destination in Celadon City is the gym where Erica is waiting for us. She is a grass-type specialist just like us, and she leads with Tangela. Tangela goes down to a single Hidden Power Ice, as does Victory Bell, and her next Pokemon is Bellossom. Bellossom is bulky enough to survive a Hidden Power Ice and sets up Sunny Day. However, she does heal it, and that means we can take care of it in 2 further shots. The final Pokemon is Jumpluff. We take care of that with a single Hidden Power Ice, and we have defeated Erica in a time of 1 hour 39 minutes and 40 seconds. Erica gives us TM19, which is Giga Drain, and we are going to replace Hidden Power Ice with Giga Drain. We're also going to use 2 PP ups on it so that we have 7 PP instead of 5. And that could not have been more perfect timing because we're now on to Misty. Misty is a water-type specialist and all of her Pokemon are weak to grass. So we take care of the Golduck in 1 shot and decline learning Solar Beam. We move on to Lapras, who is bulky enough to survive a first Giga Drain. However, Rain Dance is meaningless for us, and she brings out Starmie. Starmie isn't as bulky as Lapras and goes down to a single Giga Drain, and poor old Quagsire is 4 times weak to grass, so we knock it out in 1, and we have defeated Misty. Time of 1 hour 43 minutes and 39 seconds. Up next is Sabrina. She is a Psychic-type specialist who leads with Espeon. Espeon, a little bit like Umbreon, loves to use Sand Attack and does drop our accuracy in this battle, so we are at lowered accuracy for the rest of the battle, but it doesn't matter against the Mr. Mime as we hit first time, doesn't matter against the Alakazam either as we hit again, and we've defeated Sabrina in just 4 shots. Marsh badge obtained, let's move on to Surge. Surge is an electric type specialist, and while offensively grass isn't super effective against electric, defensively we do resist electric type moves. We do however have Earthquake on our learn set, so that makes light work of the Raichu and the first Electrode. Magneton is 4 times weak, so it goes down in 1. Out comes the second Electrode and we say goodbye to it straight away. The final Pokemon is Electabuzz, we knock that out in one shot, and we've defeated Surge without taking a single hit point of damage. Thunder Badge in hand, let's now go and catch our final friend of the run. Snorlax is only going to be helping us out by donating its leftovers to us, but that is very handy indeed. So we can now move on into our 13th gym. This is Brock, the Rock-type specialist, and Brock's Pokemon are all 4 times weak to Grass-type moves, and that means we can just use a single Giga Drain against all 5 of his Pokemon. I came in with 6 PP on Giga Drain, however, because sometimes his pesky Omastar likes to use Protect, and if he uses Protect there, it's going to slow us down just a little bit, because we'd have to use a couple of Earthquakes. In this instance though, it didn't happen, so we've defeated Brock in a time of 1 hour, 47 minutes and 20 seconds, and we can move on to Cinnabar Island. On Cinnabar Island, Blue is waiting for us, however Blaine isn't. The volcano went boom, and that means that Blaine has had to relocate into the Seafoam Island, so it's a quick surf east, and now it's time to take on what would have been a very dangerous gym if we didn't have Earthquake on our learn set. So we're going to use Earthquake against the Magcargo to take it down in one shot. Out comes the Bumhead Fireduck, and we say goodbye to that straight away, and his final Pokemon is Rapidash. Rapidash doesn't survive an Earthquake either, so we grow to level 64, we get the Volcano badge in a time of 1 hour, 48 minutes and 52 seconds. Janine is our penultimate gym leader. She is a poison type specialist, but unfortunately for her, all of her Pokemon are very low leveled. So we're going to save a little bit of time here by not using Earthquake against the Pokemon. Return is enough to comfortably one-shot them, so we'll miss a frame of text every single time, and it's as simple as using Return on all of the Pokemon to knock them out. Janine goes down in a time of 1 hour, 49 minutes and 36 seconds, and that brings us to our final gym leader. It's Blue time, and Blue is the undoing of plenty of runs, so we're going to have to be very careful here. We use Return against the Pidgeot, and it uses Mirror Move, which means it deals very little damage at all, because all the AI Pokemon hates their trainers. We use Return against the Executor as well, and it's a 3-shot. We take some damage from Solar Beam though, as he uses his first full restore. We do exactly the same the second time as he takes in Sunlight, and we knock it out in 3 shots. Out comes Arcanine. We use an Earthquake against the Arcanine as Flamethrower hits us for quite a lot of damage, but the Arcanine is now in healing range, so it's a guaranteed KO with 2 further Earthquakes, and that brings us on to his Alakazam. We use Giga Drain against the Alakazam to try and recover some health. Psychic doesn't do too much damage at all, and we're on 77 for the Gyarados. We're going to take advantage of Gyarados' parts water typing here by continuing to use Giga Drain, and he misses a Hydro Pump, which means we're back in the green for the Rhydon. Rhydon is 4 times weak to grass type moves, so we knock it out in one simple shot, and we've defeated Blue in a time of 1 hour, 51 minutes and 5 seconds. And that means with all 16 badges in hand, we can have a little chat with Professor Oak, who will unlock Mount Silver. And at Mount Silver, our final challenge awaits. It's this rare candy here! No, it's not. It is the Red Battle. So there are just 6 more Pokemon between us and getting our final time. As always, we'll try with our current learn sets at our current level, and we'll chop and change things as we need them. He leads with Pikachu, which we outspeed, and that means we can one-shot it with Earthquake. No charm for us this time, and the second Pokemon he sends out is Venusaur. Venusaur comes out second so that he can set up Sunny Day for the Charizard, and also gets quite a lot of damage off on his Solar Beams, so we're going to have to be very strategic against the Venusaur and knock it out at just the right time. Unfortunately, in this instance, our light screen faded, and that means that Charizard can knock us out in 1. So the first thing we'll do is replace the King's Rock with the leftovers. That way we can see if we can regain a little bit of health each turn from Solar Beam and be in much better stead for the Charizard. We're going to delay putting up the light screen as late as possible, so we'll use Earthquake on the first couple of turns. We do another Earthquake, he uses Solar Beam to take us just above half. I put up the light screen, but he outsmarts us and uses Synthesis. He then gets a very lucky critical hit with Solar Beam, which means we are only in the yellow as the Charizard comes out. And as you would expect, Charizard finishes us off with a single Flamethrower. That's quite enough of that at level 65, let's grow up to level 68 and try again. Once again, the Pikachu is going to be trivial at this level because we use Earthquake to outspeed and knock it out in one shot, and we're back onto the Venusaur. The strategy I was using at level 65 seems to be the best one that could come to my head, so we're going to do exactly the same this time and hope that Venusaur doesn't use Synthesis. In this instance though, we knock it out one turn too soon, and we are on to the Charizard with the sun out. We are on 200 HP as we do a little bit of damage with Return, and Flamethrower didn't actually knock us out on the first turn. That shows just how bulky Meganium is. It doesn't actually matter though because we got knocked out on the second turn, so let's now grow up to level 71. Earthquake on the Pikachu to knock it out in one as always, and we are on to the Venusaur once more. This time we're going to start with the Return to take roughly a third of its health off. A second Return takes off yet more of its health, and we're now going to go to Giga Drain. For the first time in a while though, he uses Synthesis to regain about half of his health, so we're going to have to go back to Return. The sunlight is still out though as we set up the light screen, and he uses another Solar Beam, and now it's just one final Return to knock out the Venusaur, and we are onto the Charizard with light screen without the sun being out. This is our best opportunity yet, and Flamethrower is barely damaging us at all at this point. He does manage to get us into the red for a brief moment, but we're comfortably back in the yellow as the Espeon comes out. The light screen falls and I start to Giga Drain. We're back up to 111 as Psychic hits very, very hard. We're up to 78 and Psychic knocks us out. Our best option here is to use the rest of our rare candies. We are bulky, but we're not quite bulky enough to take care of Espeon, so he starts the process all over again. Earthquake on the Pikachu to knock it out in one shot, and we are on to the Venusaur. This time though, we don't have to play the Venusaur Shuffle as he ignores Sunny Day entirely and goes straight to Solar Beam. That means it's 3 returns to knock it out, and we're practically at full health for the Charizard. We set up a light screen and get to work on knocking out the pesky Charizard. We're into the yellow as we take him into the red, and he gets a critical hit. That was heartbreaking because we could have got a time under 2 hours if it wasn't for that critical. So we'll try once more. We knock out the Pikachu in one shot and we're on to the Venusaur. We use Return as he uses Sunny Day, so we're going to have to shuffle our moves around again. We take him into the yellow and then we start to waste time by using Giga Drain. He's deep into the red as he uses Synthesis. I choose at this point to put the light screen up and get back to work using Return. We are very, very comfortably in the green as the sunlight fades, and we knock out the Venusaur in one final hit. We're just 6 HP shy of full health as the Charizard comes out and starts to use Flamethrower, and it's just 3 returns later to knock it out. Our light screen falls and out comes the Espeon. I know that we can two-shot this thing with Return, so I'm going to skip using light screen and take the damage and hopefully regain a lot of it from Snorlax. Our special defense does fall however, and that could throw a spanner in the works. We get to work Giga Draining the Snorlax as he uses Amnesia. That means we're going to switch to Return and hope for a critical hit as he starts body slamming. We get the critical hit and knock out the Snorlax, and that just leaves Blastoise. We use Giga Drain to regain as much HP as possible and go back up to 189. Blizzard hits us hard and takes us down to 21 with a Spadef drop, but a final Giga Drain finishes off the Blastoise and we have defeated Red in a time of 2 hours and 51 seconds. That is a very, very good time for a Grass-type Pokemon. I am so proud of Meganium. 18th place is nothing to be ashamed of whatsoever. Meganium is well over 20 minutes ahead of Executor and well over an hour ahead of Sunflora. Poor Magcargo though gets shoved down into 28th place, and there's no change at the top. Fearow first, Farret second, Girafarig third. And with that we are done, so I'm going to say thank you all so much for watching. If you've enjoyed this run, please do leave it a like. If you've got anything at all to say, leave it in the comments below. I have a Patreon at patreon.com/StrainerSquidgy, and if you've really enjoyed yourself, consider subscribing. But until next time, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all very soon.